You were taught a beautiful lie, that goodness wins, that kindness is strength, that if you're loyal, honest, and pure of heart, the world will reward you. And while you were memorizing these fairy tales, someone else was studying the manual. They learned that power doesn't care about your intentions, that the world is a chessboard, not a charity. And now, while you're still waiting for karma to save you, they're 3 moves ahead, and you don't even know you're playing. Let me tell you what nobody else will. Being loved is not a strategy, it's a liability. In the 16th century, a disgraced Florentine diplomat sat in exile, watching kingdoms rise and fall, watching good men get destroyed and ruthless men build empires. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli, and he understood something that still terrifies people today. The world doesn't operate on the principles they teach you in school. It operates on force, perception, and calculated fear. He wrote it all down, and they've been trying to bury it ever since. Not because it's wrong, because it's true. You think you live in a civilized world? You don't. You live in a world where civilization is a thin coat of paint over the same ancient game, territory, resources, dominance. The only difference is that now the weapons are words, contracts, and social leverage. The board has changed. The rules haven't. And here's the first rule they don't want you to know. Being loved makes you weak. Your entire life you've been conditioned to seek approval, to be nice, to be agreeable, to make people comfortable. And what did it get you? A participation trophy in a world that walks over you? Because while you were trying to be liked, someone else was learning to be feared. And fear, unlike love, doesn't evaporate when it's inconvenient. Machiavelli observed something critical. Princes who relied on being loved lost their heads. Princes who cultivated fear kept their thrones. Not because fear is more noble, but because it's more reliable. Love is conditional. It's weather. It changes with mood, circumstance, and opportunity. Fear is structural. It's architecture. People don't betray you when the cost is too high. You think that's cruel? That's just mechanics. A car doesn't run on hope. A kingdom doesn't stand on affection. Power requires infrastructure, and the foundation of that infrastructure is respect backed by consequence. Let me be clear. This isn't about being a tyrant. This isn't about cruelty for its own sake. That's the domain of the weak who mistake sadism for strength. This is about understanding the nature of human behavior and designing your position accordingly. People respect what they fear to lose. They exploit what they think is harmless. You've been taught to be harmless, and that's precisely why you've been losing. Here's the formula. Love is optional. Fear is non-negotiable. When people love you, they'll support you as long as it's easy, as long as it aligns with their interests, as long as the crowd agrees. The moment the tide turns, love becomes memory. But when people fear the consequences of crossing you, when they understand that betrayal has a price, they don't need to love you. They need to calculate. And calculation is predictable. Think about every relationship where you bent over backward to be kind, to be understanding, to be the bigger person. How many of those people are still in your corner? How many took your kindness as weakness and adjusted their behavior accordingly? Love without power is permission to be used. Now let's talk about what fear actually means, because you've been lied to about this too. Fear doesn't mean terror. It doesn't mean people trembling in your presence. That's cartoon villainy. Real fear is the awareness of boundaries. It's knowing that certain actions produce certain results. It's the understanding that you are not a doormat, not a resource to be mined, not a stepping stone for someone else's ambition. When you establish that you have standards, that you will enforce consequences, that there are lines that cannot be crossed without cost, you create something that love never can. Predictability. And in a world of chaos, predictability is power. Machiavelli called this virtù. Not virtue in the moral sense, virtù as force, as capability, as the strength to impose your will on fortune. Because fortune, which he called fortuna, is chaos. It's the randomness of life, the storms that come, the opportunities that vanish. Most people are fortune's slaves. They wait for good luck. They complain about bad luck. They live as passengers. Virtù is what transforms you from passenger to pilot. It's the refusal to let circumstances dictate outcomes. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Virtù requires you to access parts of yourself you've been taught to suppress. The part that can be ruthless. The part that can calculate without guilt. The part that understands strategy isn't about being nice, it's about being effective. You've spent your whole life being told that this part of you is bad, that ambition is greed, that self-interest is selfishness. And while you internalized that shame, other people weaponized their shadow. The shadow. That's the term for everything you've been taught to hide. Your anger, your hunger, your willingness to fight. Society tells you to suppress it because suppressed people are manageable people, docile people, people who don't compete for the throne. But suppression doesn't eliminate the shadow, it just makes it unconscious. And unconscious power is dangerous because it leaks out in passive aggression, sabotage, resentment, all the ways that hurt you without ever giving you the satisfaction of open conflict. Machiavelli understood this. The great princes didn't deny their capacity for violence. They controlled it. They were the lion and the fox. The lion, pure force, the ability to destroy threats. The fox, pure cunning, the ability to detect traps. Most people are neither. They're sheep wandering between predators, hoping morality will protect them. It won't. Here's the practical application. You don't need people to love you. You need them to respect your position. Respect comes from competence, from results, from the clear demonstration that engaging with you has rules and breaking those rules has costs. When you're competent and bounded, people don't need affection to work with you. They need clarity. Let's destroy another myth. The idea that fear and respect are opposites. They're not. Respect without fear is admiration, which is pleasant but useless. People admire sunsets. They don't obey them. Fear without respect is terror, which breeds rebellion. True power sits at the intersection. Respected capability backed by known consequences. Think of it as a contract. You provide value, clarity, and fairness. In return, people align with your agenda. But the contract has teeth. If someone violates it, they don't get a second sermon about kindness. They get removed from the equation. Not with drama, not with emotion, with the same efficiency you'd use to delete a spam email. This is where most people fail. They think being strategic means being cold. It doesn't. It means being intentional. You can care about people and still maintain boundaries. You can be generous and still enforce consequences. The difference is that your generosity isn't weakness, it's choice. And choice from a position of power is grace. Choice from a position of fear is begging. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But he also wrote that the truly skilled prince avoids being hated, because hatred is destabilizing. Hatred creates martyrs and rebellions. Fear combined with fairness creates order. You're not cruel. You're just not negotiable. Let's go deeper. Why does love fail as a governing principle? Because love requires the other person to value you more than their own interest. And humans, despite the poetry, are fundamentally self-interested organisms. Not evil, not good, just wired for survival and advantage. When you base your power on being loved, you're asking people to consistently choose you over themselves. That works until it doesn't, until someone offers them a better deal, until the cost of loyalty exceeds the benefit. Fear, properly applied, doesn't rely on affection. It relies on calculation. It answers the question every person asks unconsciously. What happens if I cross this person? If the answer is nothing, you've already lost. If the answer is severe and certain consequences, you've established a parameter. Parameters create games, and in games, people play by rules. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, this sounds exhausting. Maintaining fear, calculating every move, never relaxing into trust. And you're right, if you're doing it wrong. Because the goal isn't to live in permanent paranoia. The goal is to build a system where your boundaries are so clear, so consistently enforced, that people self-regulate. You don't have to constantly punish. You just have to make the cost of betrayal obvious and inevitable. This is the difference between masters and pawns. Pawns react. Masters design. Pawns wait to be hurt and then complain. Masters establish frameworks where being hurt is difficult. Pawns hope people will be good. Masters make being bad unaffordable. Here's the test. Look at your life right now. Who takes advantage of you? Who makes promises and breaks them? Who asks for favors but vanishes when you need something? Those people exist in your life because you've taught them that you're safe to exploit. You've prioritized being loved over being respected. And they've adjusted their behavior accordingly. The fix isn't to become a monster. It's to become unavailable for exploitation. It's to introduce cost where there was none. It's to say no without guilt, to enforce standards without apology, to remove people from your life with the same ease they would remove you from theirs if the roles were reversed. Machiavelli's world was brutal. Poisonings, betrayals, armies at the gate. Yours is subtler but no less vicious. Corporate politics, social hierarchies, economic warfare. The weapons have changed. The game is identical. And the players who pretend the game doesn't exist are the ones who lose. So here's your choice. You can keep believing the fairy tale. That kindness is enough, that people will see your good heart and reward it, that the universe keeps score, or you can accept the manual, that power is immoral, that strategy beats sincerity, that the world respects force, not virtue. This isn't a call to abandon ethics. It's a call to stop confusing ethics with weakness. You can have principles and boundaries. You can be fair and feared. You can build something that matters and protect it like a fortress. The princes who failed weren't too kind. They were too naive. They thought the rules they wanted were the rules that existed. You're not in the world you wish you were in. You're in the world that is. And in this world, being loved is not a shield. It's a target. Because people destroy what they don't fear losing. If you're still watching this, you've already made a decision. You've decided that comfort is less important than truth. That being liked is less important than being effective. That the game is real and you're tired of pretending you're not playing it. You don't need to announce this. You don't need to tell anyone you're changing the rules. Masters move in silence, they let results speak, they build power structures so solid that by the time anyone notices, it's already too late to challenge them. This is the first lesson. Not the only lesson, but the foundation. Being loved is a weakness. Being feared, properly, strategically, without hatred, is architecture. And if you're going to build anything that lasts, you need to stop building on sand. The choice, as always, is yours. Stay a pawn, hope the masters are merciful, or learn the game and play it better than they ever expected.